Hello everyone, and welcome back to Q&Play, my monthly Q&A series where I answer your questions in a rambly, unscripted format. These are all questions from previous posts, not fresh ones, because you guys have been popping off, and I really wanted to catch up. So, question from Orbaka25, what is your most current / most recent character? So, I have not played Dungeons & Dragons in a very long time, and honestly, it hasn't piqued my interest. Playing is something that is really fun, and I think I would really enjoy it with the right Dungeon Master, but honestly, outside of actual play opportunities, I'm just not really interested in playing Dungeons & Dragons. I think DMing is just where my passion lies. I love being a Dungeon Master, and even though being a DM on YouTube really stressed my limits and made me kind of reconsider whether or not I'm actually a good DM or if I even like DMing, when I went back to just DMing with my friends, I enjoyed it a lot more. I realized, yeah, I am really good at this. Maybe I'm not really great on camera all the time, and there's a lot of stress involved with that, but when I'm just playing with my friends, there is a lot of enjoyment here, and I love being a DM. I mean, I like world building and writing. I love creating NPCs. I mean, I love creating characters to play as, but when I'm a DM, I can create as many characters as I want and make them as in-depth as is reasonable. Obviously, they can never be the main characters, but I've never really been a main character guy. So anyway, this is the really long route to I don't really have a most recent or current character, but I do have some NPCs that I've been really enjoying writing. For example, Meghan Luzada. She is an NPC that my party have grown extremely attached to, mainly because I let them play as her in combat because I hate playing allied NPCs. Meghan may not always have the best plans, but she will always dive headfirst into helping people who need her help. She can be chaotic at times, even foolish, but through determination and just sheer will, she makes sure that evil sees the tip of her glaive. If I were to do Ginny D's character builder with her, the two characters I think that are most similar to Meghan are Luz Noceda from the Owl House, a super chaotic do-gooder who's always trying her best but sometimes fumbles but always gets back up, that's her thing, and also Minsk from Baldur's Gate. 2, 3, doesn't matter. That sort of energy is also what Meghan brings to the table, though she isn't quite as low in the intelligence spectrum as Minsk. She doesn't talk like Minsk does. But the aesthetic and persona of the stubborn do-gooder, I mean, I've never done that before. When you look at the other characters I've really loved playing on this channel, for example, like Kalia Solfero, she is a much more insular character, not morally responsible a lot of the time, but Meghan is very different from that. She dives headfirst into helping others because that's what she thinks is right. And honestly, playing this kind of do-gooder character has been fun. She meshes a lot with this party because they also made a bunch of do-gooders, so, you know, it lined up. It made sense. And also, since the party like her so much, I've been fleshing her out more, so who knows, maybe you'll hear about Meghan again. Next question from Thunderdrone9606. I'm just starting out as a Dungeon Master, and I'm having some trouble finding a way to organize and plan everything out for sessions. I'm curious, how do you plan out and organize yours? Is there any advice you could share? Google Drive. I am a Google Drive user all the way. I even have the stupid subscription because honestly, for a guy like me who uses Google Drive a lot to back up a crap ton of stuff, it's just reasonable for me, though I don't think you need to subscribe to whatever Google's service is to get more storage on your drive for Dungeons & Dragons. The reason I do it is because I need to back up a lot of video file stuff. My D&D materials folder is split into a backup for my world that I use on Foundry, which isn't necessary anymore because I store Foundry on the cloud now, but having a physical backup, well, not physical, but, you know, a backup that I own is not a bad idea. I have some book PDFs, some character art, item cards, materials for my players to level up so they don't have to pull up the book every time they need to level up. I have battle maps, though really I don't store battle maps in my Google Drive because it's not practical anymore because I have the online Foundry service, so I can just store battle maps there. Sound effects, though that is a library that is not really updated because I usually store any sound effects I use in my games on my computer natively. Stat blocks, this is super important. My stat block folder is pretty extensive and it needs to be because if it's not, then it's much harder for me to build encounters. A good stat block folder, an organized stat blocks folder is, in my opinion, mandatory if you want to quickly build encounters. The same thing goes for a tokens folder if you're playing an online game especially, or you're just using a VTT in general. Having a good tokens folder to store all of your monster tokens is really convenient. Now, obviously, I can't just play D&D with this. This is just storage. When I actually want to play D&D, I move all of this into Foundry's online service Forge. And through that, I can organize using Foundry's native folder features, which is really, really nice. It's the reason why I prefer Foundry leaps and bounds over Roll20. Like, I'm sorry, if you're a Roll20 gal, that's awesome. But in my opinion, Roll20 has been far outshadowed by Foundry and other VTTs on the market, especially in the land of organization. The main reason I used Foundry instead of Roll20 was because of the UI and the ease of use that Foundry presents and all of the modding that I could do on Foundry with such a huge community of modders that, in my opinion, do so much more for the platform. And on top of that, Foundry is way, way better in terms of the financials because Foundry, you just need to pay once. You don't need to pay a sub. So yeah, I've talked before about why I don't like using Roll20, but the main reason is because if I want to organize my game, Roll20 is not my platform, man. It's just not even close. Foundry is way better from that. I mean, I just prefer the Google Drives over Roll20. I organize my notes on Google Docs, and I organize all of my lore also just on Google Docs pages. I know services like World Anvil exist, but for a guy like me, it's just overkill. I like world building a lot, but it's enough for me just to write down a paragraph. I don't need to make it look fancy by any means, though I do sometimes like having a visual, hence why I sometimes create Google slide presentations to just get reference images for major locations, like you're seeing on screen, I hope. So yeah, that's how I do it. One big thing I do want to do in the future, and the main reason I want to do this is because I've played Baldur's Gate 3 and the quest log there really helps, but there is a Foundry mod that adds a quest log system into the service. I really want to create that. I know having a quest log that you can read might be immersion breaking for some DMs, like, oh, they should just remember. But the fact is, my players don't always remember. And having a list of things that they can now see that they can do, that would be really, really helpful. Like, for example, they found this batch of mysterious, almost liquid-like living metal, and they just are holding that in their inventory. They don't really know what they can do with it. But if I create a quest log, and one of the quests is investigate the paracausal metal, that might pique their interest, and I don't need to constantly remind them of what they can do. They can review the quest log themselves, and from there decide their destination. So yeah, future plans for organization. Question from evjamaranth. Ever got a moment when your players came up with a theory about the campaign/plotline that's much better and more interesting than what you wrote? And should you or should you not adjust the campaign to fit their theory if you like it better? That has never happened to me, and generally, if the players do come up with a theory on how stuff is working that is really cool and I like it, then I will swap over. But if I think that their theory is wrong or based on information that they're misremembering, I will correct them instead because, well, honestly, when my players don't remember things and they're coming up with ideas, sometimes their ideas aren't really great, and I don't think they'd be really fun for me to run because I need to deal with the cognitive dissonance of, oh, I'm doing this completely different thing because my players forgot stuff. That's not really fun for me as the DM. I mean, being a DM is a service. You know, I want to serve my players. I want to give them a story that they're going to love. But at the same time, I don't want to, you know, torment myself with a plot line I don't want to deal with because my players are misremembering things. I know to some DMs that's heresy, but to me, I think it's just being reasonable. But yeah, it's never happened to me that my players come up with a theory for the campaign that is much better than what I came up with. Usually my players and I just agree, and if they forget things, I usually correct them, and then they come up with theories that line up with what's going on. However, there are plenty of times where my players come up with solutions to problems that I never would have expected. Recently, Meghan, that NPC I was talking about earlier, she got infected with lycanthropy out of nowhere. It was kind of a big deal. I wasn't expecting it. My players weren't expecting it. And during the climactic final battle of the arc, she was turning into a werewolf. And I thought this was going to be a really sad, dramatic moment, but I really underestimated how much my players like this NPC. They like her a lot. So, the bard goes back to talk to Meghan solo, to find her solo, to make sure that she's not transforming and she's not going to hurt a bunch of people. I was shocked because I expected the party to go back and talk to Meghan as a group, instead of just sending the bard alone. But the bard insisted she had a plan, and I was like, oh boy, this better not be based on the incorrect reading of a spell, I swear to God. But she did have a plan. She's playing a College of Glamour bard, and College of Glamour has access to a charm ability after playing a 1-minute song. And this is the ability she had not used up until this point because it had never been pertinent. However, here, I thought, oh, this song does charm the target, and yeah, I don't think a charm like this would necessarily stop the transformation, but at the same time, it's a really cool idea, and there's still a saving throw, so it could still fail. I roll a save, I roll a natural 1, the party celebrates, and Meghan is stopped from turning into a werewolf, and a really dramatic plot point that could have been really bad, because I don't know if the bard alone could have taken her on in a one-on-one. It was all solved by the clever use of ability that hadn't come up yet, so yeah, that was really cool. Question from Monsieur Gio. Do you have any advice on handling a chaotic evil player? I want to allow my players to be whatever alignment that pleases them, but I don't want a murder hobo on my hands. Well, if you don't want a chaotic evil player, don't allow for chaotic evil alignment. I understand that for some DMs, freedom of choice is the #1 thing, but if you don't want certain choices, I don't know what to tell you, man. Just don't allow them, because most players aren't so draconian with the idea of player creativity and player agency that they want every single possible choice to be open at all times. The DM has no control over anything ever. Like, obviously the DM shouldn't be railroading people, but if you don't want to allow chaotic evil alignments or evil alignments in general, that's not a crime. It's okay. I don't allow evil alignments, and I've played with this group for a long time, and they like my game. It's all good. I'm sure there's some way to make it work. You know, you could use the old Baldur's Gate 3 method and force the party together by some sort of circumstance, and therefore the evil player has to work with everyone else. But at the same time, having the wrong person with that alignment in a group where it doesn't fit, that's not just going to be a pain for you, that might be a pain for everyone else. And you know what? When you're thinking about that, is all that alignment freedom really worth it at that point? I mean, it's up to you. It's your game, man. I'm not going to stop you. Question from Stampy Channel. I'm a beginner to D&D. What types of character/race roles or other things should I pick if I enjoy healing, using cool magic, and defending myself or others? Cleric is really fun for that. I mean, playing a cleric is something that a lot of people see as like the pocket mercy in Overwatch. It's a boring role where you just heal over and over and over again. But it's not. Cleric is a really fun class, and honestly, healing in D&D is not always the most optimized thing. A lot of the time, players choose to heal people only after they've been downed, which is reasonable given how healing works in the game. And honestly, Cleric has access to some really fun spells. Of all the Baldur's Gate 3 characters to play, I love Reyna, my bard, but I also like playing Shadowheart, the party's cleric. She's a lot of fun, has a lot of fun spells. Now, obviously, Baldur's Gate 3, video game, D&D, notably not a video game, but still, I think cleric fits what you want. If you enjoy healing, using cool magic, and defending people, then cleric is a great choice. You could also pick paladin for a similar flavor if you want to go way more on the defending angle, much more offensive too. But I think cleric is a cool class that has been ruined by the stereotype of pocket healers in MMOs. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I spoke my truth. Question from JKevinCarrier. What LEGO set that doesn't already exist would you like to see the most? Well, for a long time I have wanted a collector's edition of Helm's Deep. Lord of the Rings and LEGO recently partnered up again to release the collector's edition Rivendell, and I own it. It's brilliant. It's amazing. I love it. But if I had to pick a Lord of the Rings set piece that I want a giant, overwhelming set of, it's Helm's Deep. I mean, if you give me a full-sized Helm's Deep, not the play set, like a full-size Helm's Deep with tons and tons of minifigs, I will be on that 100%. That would be epic. Other than themes that already exist, I would also love a LEGO Owl House. I obviously really love the Owl House. I cosplay Amity Blight from the Owl House, so I obviously really love the show. And right now on LEGO Ideas, there is an Owl House LEGO set that is currently in review. It is not unrealistic that it could pass, given that Disney and LEGO partner on the regular, so it is possible. I don't know what's going to happen with the LEGO Owl House, though. LEGO Ideas, a lot of those sets do fall through. Another LEGO Ideas set that I really want to succeed is a big old LEGO Godzilla. We did get LEGO Optimus Prime, and I do want to get a LEGO Godzilla. I love Optimus Prime, I love Transformers as a kid, but Godzilla has been the franchise I've loved the most for the longest, very near and dear to my heart, so I'd love to see that Godzilla set get out there. So yeah, overall, Collector's Helm's Deep, which is very unrealistic, LEGO Owl House, which is possible, and Godzilla, which is also possible given that the last two are actually in LEGO Ideas in review to be sold by the company, so who knows what can happen. Hopefully they'll pass. Question from Kylo699, nice. At the end of every video you say, if you like our content, like and share, etc. Who's our? Is it editor, sound designer, artist, or your inner demons? Well, first and foremost, I never ask you to share because I think that's stupid. And no one shares videos these days, and even if you do, no one watches the videos you share unless they're like 10-second TikToks. Come on, guys. There was a rant about short-form content, how much I don't like it here, but I removed it because it was dumb. Anyway, look. The reason I say our is mostly because of the inner demons. I have no idea why I've been saying our for the longest time. I also say we a lot. I don't need to because it is just me working on these, but I do have collaborators. Right now, I'm working with an artist named Jane to draw my D&D characters, and you're definitely going to see those pieces eventually. So yeah, I do work with other people. There's people that help me out with my email sometimes, etc. But at the end of the day, most of the content is mine. You are right. And sometimes I do want to give the clones and the inner demons a little bit of their own acknowledgement when I'm thanking you guys for watching the vids. Come on. What can I say? And that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror... Oh, what? If you guys enjoyed this episode of Q&Play, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Tavern adjacent podcast. We took a break this past month, but hope to resume with some new guests. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you have your own questions or thoughts, you can leave them down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment "bed destroyed" to let me know you made it to the end of the video and to reference the game we're playing in the background. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.